when you're working with management teams at the bit of the more mature stage, when you're working with those brands, what are one or two or a few key things that you really like to focus on when you're working with them?
It's a very good question. The number one I would say is me personally. I'm pretty tyrannical. I'm pretty hyper focused on focus. and and the reason being, I've just seen brands just when they're really focused on one hero product, they just can really kill it.
Yeah.
And so Good Culture is a great example of that. When we first invested in Good Culture, they were probably about 40 million in revenue. We invested with Semcap, another great CPG investor, and they were starting to branch out into sour cream, probiotic milk that they were doing as a joint venture. And our team, I wasn't there at the time, but our team did a very good job of basically getting them hyper focused on cottage cheese because they couldn't keep cottage cheese on the shelf. It was clearly resonating with people. They were transforming the industry with a probiotic cottage cheese, which was the first in a while. All cottage cheese has probiotic benefit, but they usually go through a kill step. And unlike yogurt, they didn't have the probiotic benefit any longer. And so by turning the industry on its head, they were really changing the health benefits of cottage cheese. And so our team and Semcap really got hyper focused on that focus. And so they've now grown, I think, 5-fold since we invested, and it's all 97% of the revenue is cottage cheese. And that is because they have just a great hero product. So if you can figure out your hero product and then really focus on it, that's the recipe for success in my mind. And sometimes that means pivoting. In the case of Simple Mills, when I first invested with them, they were a baking mix company, but they were transitioning to crackers. Crackers was going to be their hero product because baking mixes really is not a huge leap. People don't really want to work that hard. There's some people love to bake, but not everybody wants to. So that's not a huge high velocity part of the grocery store.
Yeah.
But crackers is a high velocity SKU.
For sure.
And so they then focused very deeply on crackers. Even today, when they sold, they were 240 million in revenue. And even then, crackers was their hero SKU. And they had multiple types of crackers. They had branched into other things like cookies, etc. But crackers was still the predominant revenue source.
Yeah.
Another great example is the new Primal, which when I first joined the board, we were trying to figure out, they had a meat snacks business and they had a sauce business. The sauce business was small, and we were thinking, do we want to make acquisitions there and try to grow that? And because we're going to have to sell them separately. The same person's not going to buy meat snacks and sauces. But I remember my first board meeting, we were sitting in the board meeting and meat snacks was growing faster. Protein was starting to come to its own. This was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And during that time, I think it was the CFO or maybe it was Jason, said, and started talking about Snackmates, and Snackmates was this tiny little product, but it doubled each of the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I said, say more about that. And so it had gone from 2 to 4 to 8. And we dived into the whole thesis behind Snackmates. And really what they had done was created products that were for kids' palates. It was maple and chicken and apple and things that didn't have the spiciness of most meat snacks. And it had kids packaging, and it was very unique. Nobody else was doing it. And we decided as a board, that's where we should focus, that this is our hero product. And if you then fast forward now, it's more than 50% of the revenue of the company. I think over 25 million this year will be just Snackmates alone. And so that ultimately is their hero product. They've leaned into it deeply. The whole team got focused on it. Sauces are just on a shelf, not doing anything to try to grow revenue there. But really, we knew that Snackmates was the thing that was really going to be different and take off.
Yeah.
So that's really what you have to do is you have to find that hero product and then just get tyrannical about it.